Hello, everybody. It's Thursday, August 29th, and you know what that means. It's Chapo coming at you. Felix and I are joined today by overwhelming popular acclaim. It's Hesse Deni back sitting in today from Seeking Derangedness and Movie Mindset. Hesse,
hello.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we have a lot to discuss on today's show, but I do want to say just right off the top of the show, I need to address something that I failed to. I ran out of time yesterday or on our last episode because Dave had a hard out at 5, but I really do. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up probably the last Robert F. Kennedy Jr. story of this election cycle. I mean, sadly,
you say that, but I think he might surprise you.
He very well might, but let's just say what I hope will be the last pilfering of an animal carcass Robert F. Kennedy based story of this election cycle. But who knows? The man simply could shock you. And I will never count out touchdown Robert.
He's out of animals after this. I don't know how you could go bigger. I don't know what you could do.
He's like evil Noah.
Yeah, it's like Noah's Ark, but it's like a torture
It's a slaughterhouse.
chamber.
It's a slaughterhouse. Yes. It's not the animals, they go 2 by 2 into Hyannisport, and then they don't come out. They never leave.
It's like the Wasp Factory, but for Noah's Ark.
Well, where we last left our intrepid erstwhile presidential candidate, he was dealing with some flack as a result of him stealing the road-killed carcass of a bear cub, putting it in his car for 6 hours, driving to the airport, then realizing he doesn't want to park his car at the airport with a dead bear inside of it.
Okay, can I just say this story? I have seen a lot of videos of guys who killed their wife and they try to fool the police by being like, yeah, it was really weird. I got home one day and her head was cut off.
Yeah.
Someone, while I was gone for 10 minutes and someone cut her fucking head off. And I tried to put it back on. And it's like they always get caught trying to put their wife in a steel drum and rolling it into the ocean, rolling it into some industrial runoff water. And they're like, no, I was doing that because I have these barrels that I have to use, or else they get taken away from me.
They're going to be empty if I don't put anything in them.
I get a tax penalty if I don't use the barrels. And I just thought a funeral would be so bad for my sons, and so I would just throw her away. And that's what Robert Kennedy sounds like with this story, because there's so many actions in here that even for RFK, they don't make any sense for a person to take.
She wanted a drum burial. She wanted an Icelandic Viking funeral. They put them in a drum and they roll them into the creek.
It's you see road-killed bear. And you're like,
okay, he killed the bear for sure.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because in his versions of events, he happens upon a run over bear. He's like, I'm probably going to throw this out, but I'm just going to drive for 10 hours with this in my car just in case I have a good idea for it.
Yeah.
And then he gets to Central Park with this rotting carcass in his car, and he's like, oh my God, I can put it on the bike path and it will be a prank. And it's like, what the fuck kind of prank is that?
That's why
it's like going to someone's house and taking a shit on their rug and be like, you got punked, dude.
That's why Tamara Tooney resigned from the Emmys office in SVU, because she was examining the corpse of this baby bear, and she was like, they've done things to this baby bear that I've never seen before, and I just really cannot do this job anymore.
Chris Maloney punches through a wall.
Yes,
I can't take it anymore. The sickness, the depravity of mankind. But I feel like, Steve, to your comparison to Robert F. Kennedy to a wife murderer, or actually that wouldn't be that much of a stretch.
No, not really.
But it's about with the cops search your browser history, and all the recent results are how to kill bear. Where to stash bear's body after I kill it? Best places in Central Park to leave a bear. And then he's like, I was doing that for research for a screenplay I was writing.
Kennedy bingo, missing wife, dead bear. One of my favorite things in the explanation video which is one of the most uncanny things I've ever seen about the bear thing. He's like, the redneck, being the redneck that I am. It's like, what are you talking about? Dude, you're a Kennedy. What are you talking about?
Well, Hesse and Felix, I mean, this last Robert F. Kennedy animal carcass pilfering story is the mother of all animal carcass pilfering stories. I could not believe this when I read it, but here it is. Headline from the Daily Beast: RFK Jr. decapitated a dead whale and brought it home, daughter said. A whale. Profiled, okay, let's hear it. Profiled by Town and Country for the magazine's Christmas 2012 issue. Kick Kennedy, which, by the way, Kennedy.
Why she's named after the streaming service?
Also, she's been fucking Ben Affleck, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, they'll get to that. They'll get to that in the story, but it says here.
Okay.
Kick Kennedy shared a bizarre anecdote about what the writer characterized as her father's extreme environmentalism.
That's one way to put it.
Okay, hang on.
He was just recycling it. You see.
By the way, could you imagine going back in time and telling Joseph Kennedy Sr. one of your great-grandchildren will be a Kick?
Yeah. When I saw the name Kick Kennedy, it was like I was like Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind writing those equations on the window, like thinking of all the crazy, like fun shenanigans I would get into if my name was Kick. I would write like, if there was ever a name tag, I would write "Kick Me" on it and put it on my back, at a high school reunion or something.
So it says here, the writer characterized as her father's extreme environmentalism to the extreme. So listen to this. Around 1994, Kennedy caught wind that a dead whale had washed up on a beach in Hyannisport, Massachusetts, and rushed out to the scene with a chainsaw and a 6-year-old Kick in tow. You know, as you do. You hear there's a dead whale. You got to be first on the scene with your chainsaw because chances are there's going to be a lot of people trying to take environmentalism, take its head. But so he cut the whale's head off, secured it to the roof of his minivan with bungee cords, and made the 5-hour drive back to his family's home in New York. Every time we accelerated on the highway, whale juice would pour into the windows of the car, and it was the rankest thing on the planet, Kick recalled. We all had plastic bags over our heads with mouth holes cut out, and people on the highway were giving us the finger. But that was just a normal day-to-day stuff for us. Okay. The mental image of RFK Jr. or really anyone driving down the highway with a whale's head bungee corded to the roof of a minivan that's, disgorging gouts of fucking whale juice at every red light is bizarre enough. But to me, it is not the weirdest part of the story. The weirdest part of the story is we all had plastic bags over our heads with mouth holes cut out. Okay. What? I understand mouth holes, but how about eye holes? You're driving a car, so like, imagine you're at a red light and you smell the stench of absolute death. You turn your head, you see a whale carcass on the roof of a car, and then Robert F. Kennedy with a plastic bag duct taped to his head.
And then he turns to you slowly. You're 6 years old. He turns to you slowly with the plastic bag, whale juice flowing in, and he just says to you like, "You have to save the environment by." You have to save the head. If you don't have the head is where all where the mind is held. So you have to. The soul is in the head.
The head is where all the precious spermaceti is located. So maybe I think he was selling this. I don't think this is extreme environmentalism. I think this is extreme entrepreneurism.
I like the part where she's like, "Oh yeah, and people are flipping us off." As they do when you and your entire family are driving with plastic bags over your heads, and have like a decapitated whale head on your car. People always flip you off when you do it. That's just that, you know how it goes. I would be so freaked out to be in this family because every day I would think that's the day he's killing us.
It's like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. Like it's literally like a flashback scene from Hannibal. Like it's like the dad who kills the deer and tells the son like, "You got to use all the meat, son." It's literally that. But in my mind, the whale head is like as big as the egg in like Godzilla versus Mothra on the beach. It's like 100 feet tall. It's just on their car, huge, like an alien, crazy, like something out of Angel's Egg. This whale's
I once again I don't get like, and also when she just says this was just normal day-to-day stuff for us. Yeah, I bet that's probably the least weird thing that's happened to Kennedy in a car. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But what was he doing with it? I don't think this is environmentalism. This is like honestly disrespectful to the soul and beauty of a great cetacean like a whale. That some rich dickhead who sounds like a fucking Muppet is just decapitating this noble creature so he can do what with it? Not
to talk bad on women, but she must be pretty dumb to still think that was environmentalism. Like today, telling like a reporter, he's probably like, "Fuck, dude."
Well, the story goes on here. It says, "Kick, named after great aunt Kathleen Kick Kennedy Cavendish." Say that 10 times fast. Kathleen Kick Kennedy Cavendish made headlines on Saturday after a source told Page Six she'd recently been spotted palling around Los Angeles with Ben Affleck. The nature of their relationship remains unclear, the tabloid noted. But it says here, it goes on to talk about that media control extended to multiple embarrassing news cycles about his various run-ins with all manner of creatures, great and small, over the year. First in May came a New York Times report about how doctors in 2010 discovered that a parasitic worm had entered his brain and then died. Then in July, Vanity Fair reported that Kennedy had the previous year texted a friend a photo of him with the barbecued remains of what he suggested to the friend was a dog. Kennedy rejected this, saying the dead animal had been pictured with had been a goat. I mean, I think people have already debunked that. It definitely was a dog. Last line here, it says, and that's without getting into the 1,000 cubic foot freezer he keeps stocked full of roadkill meat.
That was like the house that Jack built. He has the fucking warehouse from that filled with like a house made of like, it's literally, he's like driving this 6-year-old girl out there with a chainsaw telling her like, if I saw an angel in my dream that told me if I cut off this whale's head and put it on my homunculus, you'll be dating Daredevil in the future.
He is really like, he's like the dumb people in a Miyazaki film. Like, he's the guy who accidentally kills like the deer god. He's like the dickhead that gets the plot started. By like, there's like some benevolent wood spirit, and he hits it with a car, and he's like, "Oh well, I can make tea with its bones."
There's no way that whale washed up on the beach natural causes. That's like that was a 3-week plan he was running. It was like the Sting, but for killing a whale.
He got into Kennedy's submarine and shot it with a torpedo. He was like, that head's going to be mine by hook or by crook. well, RFK Jr., I mean, I hope he doesn't disappear from this presidential cycle, and I hope we hear again about him killing an even greater. And because once you decapitate a whale, where do you even go from there?
You have to go down. You have to scale down. It has to be like a sea bear. He has to be like, I made a human centipede out of just centipedes.
I think he is scaling down though, because he started by killing a wife. And then he was,
he swallowed the wife to catch the worm. He swallowed the worm to catch the dog. He swallowed the dog to catch the bear.
After you kill a wife, it's like, okay, I have to like taper off of this.
Yeah,
it's like when when they were putting Herman Goering on trial at Nuremberg, and they were like, You're doing way too much morphine for us to put you on trial, which I always talk about this. It's like you're going to hang him, just let him do the morphine. But anyway, and they taper him off. It's the same thing. It's like, okay, if I like don't taper off of wife killing, I'm just going to kill the next one. I'm going to kill Cheryl from Curb. So I have to kill like what's below a wife? A whale. What's below a whale? A bear. Okay.
Which one was Goering? He was like the one that was like, I used to be a Chad,
Yeah. Goering was the first twink death.
Okay, period. Yeah, he was like, I was so cool back in the day. He was like the uncle from Napoleon Dynamite, kind of, but of the Nazis.
Yeah. He was really hot and then he like got huge. But it's
R.I.P.
a good postscript for him is that in Band of Brothers, Ron Livingston gets to drink all his liquor. Like he finds
I
during
remember that.
summer retreat. Yeah.
That's the moment in that show where I was like, there's no way this happened. Like, there's no way these guys did all this shit.
There's no way World War II was real.
You know?
It's made up.
No, I was like,
Steven Spielberg made it up in the 90s.
Like, there's no way these guys liberated the first camp. Which, by the way, they should have used more of the budget on the camp because it's like 4 shacks. It looks like a summer camp. It looks like a Jewish summer camp.
They're liberating Interlaken. You don't have to learn classical guitar, sir.
It's like it's Camp Crystal Lake that they're liberating.
I'm surprised you said that, Hesse, because I mean, like, you look up director Samuel Fuller's biography and wartime record, because he was involved in the North African campaign, D-Day, and also liberated a concentration camp in the former Czechoslovakia. So if Samuel Fuller can do it, then Ron Livingston and Damian Lewis can as well. World War II is not a myth; it happened. It's real, folks. Look it up. Well, actually, this is a perfect segue to talking about war, because our former president Donald Trump is in a little bit of a hot, sticky situation.
He got drafted.
Now, this is some controversy over a sort of impromptu photo shoot at Arlington National Cemetery. Headline here: U.S. Army rebukes Trump campaign for incident at Arlington National Cemetery. It says the U.S. Army issued a stark rebuke of former President Donald Trump's presidential campaign over the incident on Monday at Arlington National Cemetery, saying in a statement on Thursday that participants in the ceremony were made aware of federal laws regarding political activity at the cemetery and abruptly pushed aside an employee of the cemetery. So this was like Trump had some photo shoot at the grave of like some guy who killed himself because of Afghanistan, and the photo is great. It's Trump and this guy's family all giving the thumbs up at this guy's grave. Like they're like, maybe R.I.P. to my biggest hater.
Maybe he was like kind of bad to be around. You don't know.
No, it's so funny. You have to imagine they took a picture without the thumbs up, and then Trump was like, we got to make sure that we're doing it.
Let's just do it. Let's all get a bit silly for this one.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I like this story because I think I said like on a couple shows ago that Trump is at his best when he's disrespecting the military and the troops, because nobody who would conceivably give a shit about an unscheduled photo op at the Arlington National Cemetery, they're already voting for Trump. And by the way, visiting cemeteries is just a fun thing to do. I always stop by the local cemetery to see how old all the dead people are. But that's the problem with Arlington. They're only so old,
Yeah, not a lot of tombs to like hide behind and smoke weed as a teen. And there's like all these like soldiers walking around.
There's very little cover, yeah.
Yeah. It's not very goth. Like, you can't be goth and be hanging out in Arlington Cemetery.
The patriotic goth.
Like all these patriotic goths.
Yeah.
Hey, next time I'm in DC, I'm gonna go goth mode in Arlington Cemetery. I'm gonna light candles, break out a Ouija board, and see if I can talk to Gore Vidal.
They have the black like ASAP Rocky flag, the American flag, like draped over their shoulders.
But like this Arlington National Cemetery incident. So someone reminded me of this story from 2018 that I wanted to bring up because Hesse, you're on the show. The headline here is: Trump once argued with Vietnam vets about apocalypse now. You guys remember this story?
I don't remember this at all.
No.
Okay.
This is great.
Listen to this. This from Vanity Fair from 2018. It says, leave it to Donald Trump to turn an important meeting into a forum to argue about a movie that he probably hasn't seen. The Gathering, a meeting last March in which the president and several administration officials spoke with representatives for almost a dozen major veterans groups in an attempt to prove that the administration really cares about veterans. The movie Apocalypse Now, it went about as well as you'd expect. One attendee told the Daily Beast, it was really fucking weird. The meeting reportedly started off smoothly enough. Trump, whose platform as a presidential candidate leaned heavily on taking care of military veterans, polled the room for the ways the administration could help their efforts. Vietnam Veterans of America co-founder Rick Weidman asked the president to expand benefits coverage for more veterans who report having been poisoned with the herbicide Agent Orange during their tours of duty in the Vietnam War. Trump reportedly assured Weidman, that's taken care of. When the attendees, including several who served in Vietnam, including Weidman, informed the president that that was not the case, Trump responded with an extremely relevant question. Was Agent Orange that stuff from the movie? It soon became clear that by that movie, he meant Apocalypse Now. As anyone who remembers the very famous line, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning," could tell the president, the American military did not use Agent Orange in the 1979 film. Multiple sources told the Daily Beast that several attendees did tell Trump that the use of napalm and not Agent Orange was depicted in the film. His response, "No, I think it's that stuff from the movie."
Okay, period. No, in Trump's defense, Coppola probably did use some Agent Orange on making Apocalypse Now just for fun. Just like, we got to really get everyone in the mood. You know, we got to get the smell of Agent Orange in the air. Coppola's
I really think what happened here
is a total shithead. Like, I've been like realizing the more I think of it.
Well, I can almost guarantee that what happened here is that the famous opening scene of the movie where you hear the doors and then you see the helicopters and then the whole tree line of the jungle just explode in flames.
The end.
What was the color of the flames? Orange. So Trump saw that and thought that's what Agent Orange is. It's the stuff that, looks orange.
We're going to do incredible things for these veterans. We're going to make mirrors that don't break when you punch them really hard when you're really drunk. Having flashbacks.
Per the Daily Beast, the president spent at least 2 minutes asking various attendees which substance was used in the film before asking Weidman, who joined the chorus of people who had already said it was napalm, before adding he didn't like the film because he thought it did a disservice to veterans. Well, I think you just didn't like the movie, Trump told Weidman. Then and only then did he allow the conversation to return to the actual pressing topic at hand. He is so cool sometimes.
That's baller as fuck, dude. We got to get him on Movie Mindset to talk about Apocalypse
Talk about Sunset Boulevard. Unfortunately, we already did that one, but
I mean, like, what fucking pressing topic? I feel like it's every week there's like 18 veterans groups that are all called like Veterans in America or American Veterans for America. Meet with the president or a bunch of senators and are like, we're not getting enough benefits. It's like how much is enough?
We're gonna make the VFW smell like the nicest cigarettes. It's gonna smell like Parliament instead of American spirits.
If you're a veteran, how are you still not like getting your Flintstone vitamins from the government?
Yeah,
that's probably your fault at some point. Everyone who's ever ran for president and was in Congress was like, I made a bill that made it so that there's one customer service rep per every veteran. If the VA denies your claim at this point, it's your fault. I am so sick of these guys. Like,
you know what?
Fuck up.
I just had a thought. I bet RFK Jr. had it in his platform that he was gonna like bring back the POWs from Vietnam that are still there.
Almost certainly.
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
I love the bring them back, like the POWs thing. Like the idea that all those POWs still in Vietnam are still in bamboo cages and not in like they wouldn't build a house or like a concrete jail or anything.
They don't want to come back. They found Hanoi to be quite nice, and they're like, I'm not going back to Pennsylvania. Get the fuck out of here.
Like talk about sending a kid to camp. That's what it's like. Like the first year they were POWs, they were like, we want to go home, and the NBA was like, oh, in a year you're going to be saying one more year. Yeah, you're going to be having so much fun. You're going to say one more year, and that's what happened. That's what happened to Stockdale.
They liked all the ways they were tied up. They was like bondage. It was hot.
Yeah,
that's what happened. That's what happened to John
Shibari
McCain.
Or whatever.
That's what happened to John McCain and Stockdale, James Stockdale. With McCain, they were like, we can send you home early because your dad's an admiral. And he was like, no, I want to keep water skiing.
John McCain being like, don't tie me penis to butthole with this guy naked. Please, please don't tie me penis to butthole with this guy.
James Stockdale self-harmed when they tried to send him home. They were like, okay, you've been in camp too long. Your wife misses you. And he's like, no, and bashed his head against concrete. And they're like, okay, well, now you can't get on the bus because you're bloody.
Well, I bet his NVA jailers probably didn't nag him as much as, the missus, the old ball and chain.
Period. That's it. That just made me think about another movie digression, which is the movie Rescue Dawn, which is
Werner Herzog.
Yeah, great movie. But it's also like the book it's based on has one of the worst titles of any book ever. Little Dieter learns to fly. Yeah, Little Dieter needs to fly. I'm like, wow, it's so great call changing the name of that book for the movie.
Maybe he didn't need to fly. Did you ever consider that?
Yeah.
Considering he was a German who ended up in a Vietnamese prison camp because he volunteered for the American Air Force.
Yeah, maybe he was a psycho. Maybe they found a necklace of ears around his neck or something.
Maybe he should have drove. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah.
But I mean, once again, just Trump's attitude that movies are more real than reality, that in fact they supplant reality if they're good enough, and his just general disrespect for the army and the people who fight in it. I gotta say, continues to endear him to me. But a couple things I want to talk about from Trump. There's a few things. Did you guys see the ad for the Trump playing cards that he's selling, or the digital NFT cards he's selling?
Is your favorite president, Donald J. Trump, with some very exciting news. By popular demand, I'm doing a new series of Trump digital trading cards. You all know what they are. We've had a lot of fun with them. It's called the America First Collection. 50 all-new stunning digital trading cards. It's really something. These cards show me dancing and even me holding some Bitcoins. And
he says, by popular demand, I'm doing a new series of Trump digital trading cards. You all know what they are. I love it because he has no clue. Okay. He goes, you all know what they are. Yeah. We've had a lot of fun with them. These cards show me dancing and even holding some Bitcoins. So think about that. Think about that.
He's literally doing like Robert De Niro in Casino, doing like TV show at the end of the movie.
The Donald J. Trump dancers are here, and yeah, they even show me holding some Bitcoins. I mean, I think it's just like it's a sign of the degradation of our culture and the end of the American empire. Because obviously, a bit we've done on this show in the past is we've got like a whole box of Operation Desert Storm trading cards and just crack the pack. Go through it, see if anyone gets a Schwarzkopf deck or just gets stuck with the Powell. Ugh,
I got an Atta. Holy shit.
That card's a real dud.
I got a holographic Atta.
But why do I have to have this bullshit, these digital trading cards? I want the physical, real Trump trading cards where he's where it's like a hologram card where if you shake it, it looks like he dances.
Mm-hmm. The shinies. Those are so rare.
Foil chrome edition.
I'm shifting my Trump into defense mode. You turn it side.
I have to tap Mar-a-Lago to cast the spell.
I draw three more I draw three more Trumps for my deck.
I was crushing it, and then I drew a Jared. Ugh.
Ew.
But Trump was also on Dr. Phil this week, where it's funny because every interview now they just want to talk about him nearly dying, and he really hates it. So he had some really fun things to say. Dr. Phil asked him, "Why were you spared?" And Trump replied,
"That's crazy. That's crazy."
Is Dr. Phil moonlighting as Joe Black?
I like to imagine that's his first question.
Brad Pitt and Joe Black. That happened during the Biden presidency.
Everything gonna be Irie now.
Yeah,
Everything gonna be Irie now, Trump.
Pupils and irises disappeared, and he said in a haunting 9 voices, he said, "Why were you spared?"
Why were you spared? And Trump's reply was, "It has to be God. How can you say it's luck when it's 20 million to 1?
Gotta be God."
How can you say it's luck when it's really good luck?
You have to. You have to know. Like, he has to have been like, what are the odds? What are the odds of that? And like asked one of his like people, and they were like, I don't fucking know. Like, let's just make up a number and tell him like 20 million to 1, man. Like, it's 20 million to 1.
It's pretty unlikely, but even better is when Dr. Phil, once again, like asking this question of Donald Trump is so funny. He asked him, "Did you hug your kids extra hard?" All of his kids are like 30 plus years old, and he hates them. He's not hugging them. And he said here, "Has the shooting changed you?" Trump's reply to this was, "Look, being president is a dangerous job. It's much more dangerous than a race car driver, than anything. It's probably the most dangerous profession."
That's crazy.
I was like, that is the most cap I've ever heard anyone said. But then I think about like out of the 46 US presidents, how many of them have been killed? And it's like, you know what? He's kind of has a point.
He's cooking. I think, no, he definitely watched Days of Thunder the night before. He was like thinking about that. It's so funny to ask a question. If you ask someone a question and their answer is look, if it starts with look, that's a yes. Like, did the shooting change you? Look.
piggybacking off the near assassination of Donald Trump, there's a great piece in the Washington Post, and by great I mean utterly inane. And the headline is 6 parents on how to talk to young kids about political violence. And one of the parents they spoke to was Bethany Mandel. It's
Holy shit.
And the responses were pretty great because, like, why does a newspaper need to cover this? Tell your kids whatever you want. Who gives a shit? It's like not like he actually was killed. Like, I mean, just say like, yeah, someone took a shot at the president and he almost died, but he's fine.
Yeah, kids know what guns are. They're like, oh, sometimes you hit someone with a gun and sometimes you don't. What are you supposed like? Are you supposed to give them this big speech where you're like, our divisions are dividing us? You can't even get that from the shooting because it wasn't like, the horrible ghoul, the Garbage Patch Kid that tried to shoot Trump was doing. It's not like he was like, oh my God, we're so divided and polarized. I have to shoot the president. No, he was like, who knows what he thought. He was confused. He does not know that Joe Biden is president. He probably thought Donald Trump was still the president. It was the same reason that people like buy drugs from the gas station,
because it's there. Because it's there.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Donald Trump was there, just like that K2 at the checkout aisle.
It's kind of baller that he was just like, whoever comes to town first. That's who.
Well, I mean, someone should have just put this kid on to collecting dead animals. Then he could have, run for a third party slot instead of trying to shoot one of the major presidential candidates.
Yeah,
but
he should have like just made mods for Postal 2 or something. He probably would have been a lot happier.
But I mean, the fact that Bethany Mandel was included in this, because, when she's not telling her kids about why it's okay to kill other kinds of kids in certain parts of the world, she's weighing in with extreme gravity about this near miss of the president. But the article begins, talking about politics with children and teenagers in a heated election year is complicated enough when everything is peaceful. But when political violence intrudes on the democratic process, as it did in July when Donald Trump was wounded and one of his supporters was killed at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, even the savviest parent might feel at a loss for words. I know I did. So I asked 6 parents with very, very different political convictions and children of different ages how to handle these wrenching conversations. Wrenching conversations? It's not like you're getting divorced. What wrenching? Like, is this really so hard to talk to your kids about? I mean, I say this as a childless cat man, but is it really that hard to talk to your kids about what's going on in the world? Or you could just not talk to them about it. I mean, if they ask, come on.
We asked Atticus Finch what he would how he would explain it to his kids.
This wrenching conversation. Like, is it that difficult?
It's also like, what do you think was more difficult to explain? That, like, a bad looking guy almost shot the president, or 9/11?
Yeah.
Everyone who's like, over like 20, like 9 now, their parents had to explain 9/11 to them. And just judging by what I see, the average person and my memories of the average adults at the time, how good of a job do you think they did? Probably not that fucking good, right? But what is the consequence of that? Everyone's parents they had no ability to explain events to them. Like when William Henry Harrison died, most people were illiterate, and they asked their even more illiterate parents, "Hey, why did the president die?" And they're like, "Oh, because he had bad humors. That's why you
probably a demon or something. Probably a demon showed up.
That's why you have to sleep upside down with your asshole split open, so all the bad spirits exit your body." But they made it on to the next thing. They invented cars and electricity. It doesn't matter. You can tell your kids anything. Like, to a reasonable extent, you don't have to do a good job with this stuff.
Yeah, I would tell, if I had kids, I would tell them that he was dead, that it worked.
Yeah.
It's a clone. It's a hologram.
Oh, yeah. He got killed because he was interrupting Daddy while he was playing flight sims. He was bothering his dad when his dad, Donald Trump's dad, who's still alive, was playing flight sims, and he was bothering him, going, I need to eat dinner. And the shooter heard that, and it made him really mad, and so he almost killed him.
I was in kindergarten when 9/11 happened, and I don't remember this. I don't remember it at all. But
You've forgotten.
Yes, I've forgotten. What I do remember of 9/11, the one thing I remember is that my kindergarten teacher, who was a nun, asked our class, "What does anyone know what happened? Does anyone know, like, when we first got back to school? Does anyone know what 9/11 is? What the Twin Towers were?" And I raised my hand and I said, "It's when the biggest ship in the whole world sank, and it was called the Titanic, and so many people died." And I got sent to the principal's office. My parents had to come pick me up from school.
Oh no!
So that's all I remember from night. And I genuinely thought that's what 9/11 was. I thought it was the Titanic.
I was in middle school and I didn't, I was asleep in my first period. I didn't know it happened because I was up all night. My dad kept everyone in the house up because he was on the phone all night the night before.
Planning 9/11, yeah.
He was doing the phone tree.
Yeah, he was
calling
calling all,
Fitzgerald.
yeah, for some reason my
in
dad
Hebrew,
was,
he was
calling
screaming
all
in
his
Hebrew.
friends and telling them not to go to work for some reason.
He was psyched too. He was smoking a big cigar.
Yeah.
He opened his best bottle of scotch.
It was really weird. When I got home, my mom and dad were dancing.
Yeah.
And
they were doing that dance from Fiddler on the Roof.
I've seen that video, Felix.
They were stomping on a wine glass and dancing. Them and Michael Rappaport were breakdancing on a giant dreidel. It was really weird to me.
Well, here's what Bethany Mandel has to say, and please keep in mind for her comments on how she talks to her children about scary, violent things in the world, that she is currently not just supporting, but like ghoulishly cheerleading the single largest bloodletting of children, maybe in the 21st century.
She's getting
our
like
lifetime,
booty call texts from Richard Spencer being like, "You up?" She's like, "Hi." Yeah.
So it says, Bethany Mandel writes, "When I opened my phone and saw the photos of Donald Trump after he was wounded in an assassination attempt at a campaign rally, I screamed."
Yeah, Donald!
Go to bed.
You're so brave.
Because it was breaking news, I was telling my husband, Seth, what had happened around the kids. They saw the pictures over my shoulder. My younger kids weren't interested. My older kids, who were 10 and 9, asked what had happened. I simply said he was shot, and they watched a bit of the coverage that night. Okay, end of story. Nothing more needs to be said. Yeah.
It sounds like they don't give a shit at all.
It says, ultimately, when political events turn violent, kids are going to hear something about what happened from the radio, friends, or even their own shocked parents. From the radio. They gather around the phonograph and or they see a newsreel before the Buster Keaton film that they're going to see.
All my high school age cousins, they love Jack Benny. He's still alive. They're still listening to him.
Dad, why isn't Giddy Up Cowboy playing on scheduled time?
From the radio, friends, or even their own shocked parents. We have to say something about what happened. But I think perhaps more important than that is how we say it.
You also don't, by the way. You don't have to say anything about what happened.
Most preteens don't understand the significance of just how close we came to the major unrest that would have followed Trump being killed. Cap. No, there would not have been any major unrest had his fucking wig got split. No one would
be resting because we would be partying.
No one
days.
You think there would be like a civil war or something? Like, no, everyone went to bed and woke up the next day. Turned on. They were like, "Oh, football season's starting soon. I wonder how the Eagles."
Please don't bring up a civil war, Will. I don't want to. I don't want to return to that. Well,
I would really argue the opposite. There's nothing more. Nothing less likely for Americans to do than the opposite of rest. I think they would get a lot of rest if Donald Trump was killed. They'd be like, I have to sleep instead of go to work because I'm so sad.
They would turn their TVs that are always on the news, like always on CNN, they would turn them from 0 to like 3 or 4 on the volume for a few days.
Yeah.
And then they would turn it back down.
Well, I mean, if Donald Trump, if the Garbage Patch Kid had, fucking done his job, then we wouldn't need to have the news anymore. People could go back to watching Chicago Fire. turn off the CNN, turn off the MSNBC. Bethany, she says here, do we as adults know what might have happened if the bullet's trajectory had differed by millimeters, or if Trump hadn't turned his head?
That's a great question.
Bethany, what would have happened is that like your children would have been like clawing at the walls because they would have been deafened from the sound of the entire neighborhood going honk shoe wee honk just snoring as people just gave up there and rest and finally got a good night's sleep. It says kids care most about what's going on around them, and they want to know that they're physically safe and that their lives won't be impacted by world events. We can largely make that commitment with the caveat that parents aren't gods. The message that we are doing the best we can to ensure
for yourself, honey.
ensure safety and stability in our kids' life is the one parents should be emphasizing, not anything about the events and their historical significance. And then it just says here, Mandel is a homeschooling mother and the author of Stolen Youth. What is that, a memoir?
She's stealing the youth of her kids.
Yeah, she's stealing the lives of her children by educating them, or putting that in air quotes. Here's a really good one, though. This is the response from Leah Libresco Sargent. And I'm just going to give you the bio. I'm going to give you the bio. I'm going to give you the bio of Leah Libresco Sargent before I read you her comments.
Boston, I'm guessing Boston.
Libresco Sargent is the author of Building the Benedict Option and runs the newsletter Other Feminisms.
Okay,
Building the Benedict Option? That's a book about Eggs Benedict. That's a book about like how to make Eggs Benedict.
So they're only having like women that would like know Rod Dreher.
Yeah.
Like those are the only women they're talking to thus far. I thought the Benedict option was Rod's thing, and this
it was.
And Sergeant Leia Lambrusco stole it.
Wait, what is the Benedict option?
It's when the Catholic Church is not Catholic enough. You're like, okay, I'm going to start a like busy town, but for Christians. We're going to break away from the secular world.
Is it named after Pope Benedict?
Town.
Yeah.
The scariest looking guy on the planet. You're gonna follow the evil looking guy, the guy who looks like Emperor
alive,
Palpatine.
Right? He's still alive.
No, he died.
No, he's dead.
He dead? Okay.
Yeah, suicide by cop. It was crazy. Grabbed the cop's gun in an elevator.
The Lambrusco Sergeant says, our kids, 4 and 2, are small and have minimal exposure to TV news, so we haven't had to address political violence or the presidential election directly. But we're laying some of the groundwork for discussions of current events by exploring stories of the past. We're Catholic, and we have a number of children's stories about the saints, particularly Meg Hunter Kilmer's Saints Around the World and my husband's Saintly Creatures Around the House. So she's using this to flog her husband's stupid kids book about saints.
My husband's saintly creatures are around the house right now. They're talking to all of us. They're telling our kids they're whispering sweet nothings to our kids.
It says our kids have already heard stories of political violence and persecution, so it won't come as a surprise that they persist in the present day. Our focus is on how to live bravely and generously in a difficult world. The stories of the saints that our girls love, whether Saint Eulalia, a child who defied an unjust Roman governor, or Saint Rita, who ended a family feud that killed her husband, are people who are willing to give their lives for the truth, but never acted out of contempt for those opposing them or willed their destruction. Just as the story of Herod, they've seen in our Tommy de Paola books, is part of the larger story of Christ's birth. If I was talking to them about the assassination attempt, I'd juxtapose it with the gift Corey Comprador made of his life to his family.
Does this woman have a sponsorship deal with Saints where she has to name drop as many of them as possible? Like, calm down, lady. No one. Corey Comprador?
Yeah.
Who the fuck are you talking about?
Corey Comprador is the guy who got shot.
Bet you anything both of these saints
I thought
died
he was a saint.
In the craziest ways. I'll bet you anything. Hang on. Eulalia, according to tradition, the tortures culminated in her crucifixion on an X-shaped cross, a so-called satire. And she's depicted.
The Romans crucified a little girl? Oh my God.
Yeah, she is depicted on the cross as an instrument of her martyrdom.
Jesus Christ.
Instead, she was actually just publicly tortured to death on an X-frame, and her body was left on display.
Yeah, wow, I wouldn't want to disturb
story
my
to tell
kids.
your kids.
I wouldn't want to disturb my children with stories from the news.
Yeah.
They're like, in the Roman Empire, girls as young as you were nailed to a wooden cross and tortured in public for days.
Well, that's how the Romans explained Jesus Christ to children. They're like, "Who's this Jesus guy?" And like, "What did we do to him?" And they're like, "Oh, who's your most annoying friend?"
Remember that bitch that was in your
this
kindergarten
annoying
class?
girl named Eulalie, who didn't invite me to her Jupiter Day party. Oh, okay, I know what we're gonna do with her.
Remember that girl on the top of the Saturnalia tree? Who was kind of like the star?
How did Saint Rita die?
Saint Rita. Let me look it up.
I really don't like that there were
Let me guess.
Ritas like
I'm gonna guess
4,000
that
years ago.
She was burned alive. That's going to be my...
That's a common thing for saints. They really love. They're like the Fury from Metal Gear Solid 3. I'm burning up. You know.
Okay.
They love being on fire.
She was boiled in a big pot as they cut carrots and turnips into the water as it simmered.
Okay, I
Do you
think
think-
she
do
just
you
died of
think
old
anything-
age. That's
She's
pretty
not
good.
of old age?
Oh,
Get the
okay.
fuck out of
Okay.
here.
Okay, yeah. Then my
Get the fuck
grandparents
outta
are
here.
saints.
The miracle she did. The miracle she did was divorcing her husband.
Wait, what? Wait, you're not supposed to do that.
1400. No, I'm kidding. But
Uh,
that is, she was known for practicing mortification of the flesh. Okay, period. And because her prayers were very effective. She was super effective when she was in a Pokemon fight against her abusive evil husband. Her prayers were super effective.
uh,
Do you think there are any saints that, like, when they were being tortured to death, they went, "It's a living"?
Totally, absolutely. There's that one who said, "I'm done on this side. Turn me over." When they were burning him alive.
Oh yeah.
That was iconic.
That's my guy. That's my favorite saint. He had a
Mhm.
sense of humor.
Who was that? Bartholomew, maybe? I can't remember. It would be crazy if I got that right, just off the dome.
well, you were educated by nuns, Hesse.
Absolutely.
A nun, I guarantee you, your kindergarten nun, she knew every saint and how they died, but had to ask you, a 5-year-old, what the Twin Towers are.
Yeah,
And you grew up in New York. That's how far away Buffalo is from the city.
I think I got it wrong.
That would be Saint Lawrence.
St. Lawrence, period. Yeah, Bartholomew was skinned alive, period.
Ugh. Ugh. Boy,
They were not good to these saints. Like,
And this
no-
Rita lady just died in her bed after being
I think she
arguing
had a
with her
bad
husband
life.
for
I think
40
some
years.
bad stuff happened to her. I don't want
Not
to
bad
be
enough.
shit talking Saint Rita. I don't want to. I'm going to be having nightmares. My grandma's ghost is going to be haunting me.
Yeah.
Do you think that, like, the Romans had like a Ray Donovan who was killing all these saints?
Yeah, Pontius
Like-
Pilate.
No,
That was
but I
their
mean, like, no.
guy.
Pontius Pilate is the guy who commands Ray Donovan to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, literally a guy where they're like, okay, this woman is going around mortifying her flesh and she's one of those like really shitty miracles. Like, oh, she made grain last for a really long time.
Yeah.
You need to
It's-
light her on fire and throw her in an ancient dumpster.
Yeah, they had the same guy from the end of Scarface who shoots Tony Montana in the back. He
Yeah,
had
that was-
sunglasses
yeah.
and a shotgun.
That's
He's
Ray
going around.
Donovan. That's Ray Donovan's dad.
Yeah.
That was the first Ray Donovan who was ever captured on film. But Ray Donovan has been a position for over 6,000 years. Pretty much as long as there's been like written history, there's been every civilization has had Ray Donovans.
That's what Assassin's Creed is. It's about
Yes.
Ray Donovan. That's
Yeah.
what that game is.
Ray
Yeah,
Dominion.
It's an ancient
Circa
it's
first
yeah.
century.
Ray Dominion.
Well, before let's move on before we slag off all of this.
Wait, can we
yeah.
can we talk about the biggest news story? I texted you this news story, Will, and you totally ignored it. The biggest news story in the news today.
Yeah, spit it.
Jerry Seinfeld was assassinated by Hindu nationalists.
No way.
Isn't that incredible?
Well, we all saw it coming,
What
but
did he-
like, you know, it's
Yeah.
so sad.
I keep trying to get this lie started, and no one buys it. No one
I'm
believes
with
it
you.
for even a
I'm with
second.
you. I'm trying to help.
R.I.P. Everyone, if you're listening to this podcast, don't ever lie to your friends about Jerry Seinfeld being assassasinated. By
The guy who killed him right before he shot him to death said, "Sir, friends is also lying."
Do you like, it's very sad that his last words were like, "You're going to kill me for eating a hamburger? What are you, a hot dog guy?" Really sort of ignominious last words to go out on.
the explanation that I gave, that on Seeking Derangements for the joke that got him killed. That is the reason they're targeting comedians today. Is he made the daring joke? I met an Indian guy named Raj, and I said, "What's that short for, Roger?" And that's why he got killed by Hindu nationalists.
Yeah, it's really sad.
All right,
I don't know, how did they manage to crucify him in the middle of Central
it's
Park?
crazy. In his Pagani Zonda, no less.
Yeah.
He said, "I'm done on this side. Turn me over."
Has anyone ever been made a saint in a sous vide? I don't want to be put into a bag.
I'm Jewish, his last words before being canonized. I'm Jewish. No.
It's a lot of saints said that. A lot of
Yes, they said, "No, please."
Wrong one.
That I didn't get a chance to talk about the RFK dead whale story on Monday's show, and then at the DNC live show again because we had a hard out at 10 o'clock. I did not get a chance to read this article, and I would be remiss if I didn't give it some air on the show because it is possibly one of the most bird brain things I've ever read. This comes courtesy of his name is Anand Girahadras, and I know I'm butchering his last name, but you know the guy. He's like, he has Jimmy Neutron hair, and he's one of these sort of like liberal democratic media
He does
figure.
have Jimmy Neutron. Look at that. Holy shit, dude. He has Lego piece hair.
Yeah. And like if I were to describe him, he's a guy that they book on like CNN or MSNBC to come on and be like, I'd be lying if I said Israel wasn't committing a genocide in Gaza.
Yeah.
But look.
Yeah, he's like the like farthest left guy they'll have on like MSNBC or CNN. Like a very identifiable like left liberal media role that we've seen since Trump.
There are a lot of parts in this article, I skimmed it. There are a lot of parts where he's like, and by the way, I said I talked about this like a bunch of years ago, but I talked about how much I don't like Bernie and how he was doing stuff wrong, and I predicted that he would lose, actually. It's like, okay, fucking idiot. What are you talking about?
He was a big Warren guy, so
Yeah.
what
So,
an amazing predictive algorithm.
Yes, absolutely.
So like I think like knowing that he has hair like Jimmy Neutron, he was a Warren guy. You can like I think even if you're not familiar with Anand, you're familiar with the template here, and this is something he wrote for his Substack. The headline is "The Rise of the Brat Pack and a New Political Style," and he filed this right before the DNC. But he was like, it's obvious where he's going with this, and it begins as such. He says, there's a little preface to this article. He says, "So my flight was canceled. Here I was, all ready to go to the DNC, leather jacket in tow, and the flight started vanishing due to terrible weather. I will be heading west soon, but first I wanted to jot some notes on the real meaning of what I believe we will be witnessing this week, which is the rise of a new political style taking over the leadership of the Democratic Party. The great political story of 2024 is President Biden's decision to stand aside in favor of Vice President Kamala Harris. It is a story of selflessness, of generational transition in the rise of Harris." Okay, you can't call it selflessness when Biden tried as long as possible to prevent it from happening.
Literally, the only reason he stepped aside was that they found out it would be like mathematically impossible for him to win, and that everyone would hate him. He was grabbing on for dear life until that.
It's selfless in that Biden no longer has a self. His mind is empty. He's a husk now.
He says, "And the rise of Harris, and of a woman who has at times struggled to command the narrative coming into her own in a way that has energized the party, turned the race upside down, and roused deadened souls. But this story, as dramatic as it is, may obscure the deeper story, which is less about the transition from one leader to another and more about the ascendance of a new political style at the top of the Democratic Party. We are witnessing the rise of what I'm calling the Brat Pack, and with it, a new approach that elevates attention over restraint, storytelling over self-explanatory policy-mindedness, fight-picking over always taking the high road, and thrilling the base over diluting for moderates."
They're just describing Regina George. Literally, they're like, teenage girl time. I'm so mad at Charlie for doing this. This is all her fault, dude.
No, I mean, so when we were at the DNC, that brat shit was. Just being in the city of Chicago, you could like it was just sort of suffused. They're so hype on this brat this brat thing right now. And of course, Anand is the perfect nitwit to fucking to give a loudspeaker to
be like, I'm
absolute drivel.
Actually, unlike everyone else looking at this Brat stuff, I'm a smart guy.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm the one who should really pick this apart. And I'm pissed off that
I'm reading the auguries
by
provided by Charlie XCX's Cocaine album and why it's good for the Democratic Party.
Is this also like this is like this year's death of neoliberalism? It died in 2021, it died in 2022, it died in 2023, and this time it's dying. The other times it was dying because it got killed by Build Back Better. This time it's replaced by Brat.
It's the New Deal.
Do you remember when everyone was like, yo, Fukuyama was so wrong, dude? Now it's just like, oh no, he was so right. Hang on. Like,
yeah, like the end of history didn't mean that history would just stop occurring. That like events in here, what he meant is that like liberal capitalist democracy is just like there's no alternatives because we've made it that way. And to this point, I mean, yeah, he's still batting 1,000.
Yeah.
But it says here, with apologies to the earlier incarnation, I'll call them the Brat Pack after the campaign's embrace of a pop star's embrace of Harris. I believe their rise is the most underrated story of this race and the real subtext of what we're about to see at the convention this week. This article is the political equivalent of everyone who wrote a review of the Barbie movie about how it was a really important piece of art that needs to be taken seriously.
What you just read is one of the worst paragraphs I've ever heard in my entire life.
Well, really Hesse, buckle up.
Oh my God. I mean, even just writing wise, it was crazy. That was insane.
And so in what follows, I wanted to break down some of the defining features of the new Brat Pack approach, the new style and orientation that is taking over the Democratic Party. You'll notice that in his preface, he said that one of the features of the Brat Pack is not really being mindful about policy. There's a departure from self-explanatory policy mindedness. So this new orientation that's taking over the Democratic Party, is it Medicare for all? Is it not doing a Holocaust to Palestinians? No, but it's Charlie. It's mother. It's mother. It's period, as you said.
It's storytelling. It's storytelling, which is a journalist way to say lying.
Yeah,
like, it's an op-ed journalist way to say lying.
Well, the first big item in the Brat Pack approach is, of course, storytelling. And he writes here, the Brat Pack approach emphasizes storytelling over the idea that good policies and good results should be self-explanatory. Well, I mean, like, what he's saying is the Democrats don't have good policies or good results. But man, oh man, can they tell a story?
Yeah, me in the principal's office after getting sent there for saying the Titanic, like, your son is a really good storyteller.
We are seeing a shift from a view of the work should speak for itself to nothing speaks for itself. You've got to tell the story.
What story are they telling, Anand? That they like
it's
what,
Felix?
What
it's Brat Girl Summer. It's Brat.
Have you ever heard Felix? Have you ever heard of Joseph Campbell? Have you ever heard of the hero's journey? Okay. Have you ever heard of the Epic of Gilgamesh? Okay. Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel. It's just stories. These are the stories we tell ourselves, you know?
Did they write articles like that? Did they write articles like Winston Churchill is the Irving Berlin prime minister?
Yeah. Okay. You've got Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, Gilgamesh and Enkidu. It's the story of twos. Now we got Harrison Walls. Easy. Done. That's a story. Say no more. So he goes, I've often detected in my conversations with high-level Democrats a contempt for story. It's a contempt
Oh my God. I hate story.
I
don't like story.
I like sort of character and vibes-based things. I don't think, let's not get too lost in plot.
I only read nonfiction. Okay. And I don't like, I like the facts. Okay. I like looking at a chart. Call me when you have a chart.
Also, I'm so, like, as fucking moronic, this is moronic, but also it's like wrong. It's like, no, Democrats love story. They love the story of Obama. They even tried to like make a story around Hillary. Like, oh, she was the girl who was good at everything, but the time wasn't right. But then blah, blah, blah. They love a story. Just all their stories suck dick.
Yeah, Biden's story was like, my family was killed by a car in burn pits. Please vote for me. I've been in office for the last 100 years.
Biden's story is, my dad was the first guy to say love is love in 1949.
Biden's story
They're gay
is like,
fellas, Joe.
my life is the book of Job, but I didn't learn anything, and God will not spare me. And I'm in the hands of Satan. There's no redemption. There's no salvation for me.
My story is, honey, I killed the kids.
In retrospect, it actually is crazy, like thinking about watching Pete Buttigieg try to do a story, because he obviously, like, CIA, McKinsey, like, little fucking freak. Like, there's just a huge blank spot. It's like applying to a job and there's like a huge, like, 12-year gap on your resume. And he's just like, I'm just a gay guy who I was in Afghanistan for a minute. Isn't that crazy? And then, you know what? I'm here.
His story was, I am gay, but if I could get brain surgery to change that, I would do it in a second.
It was crazy when he said that in that documentary. I felt so bad. His husband was right. Chasten was right there. Chasten needs to try meth once and kill him. I swear to God. He would be so much happier in jail.
Back to Anand, it goes here. In 2009, I wrote about Bernie Sanders' near refusal to tell his own personal family story, even though it would have even though it would have helped him tremendously. Isn't
it near refusal not a refusal?
Yeah,
I mean, like, it would not have helped him. And if he did tell his story, Anand would write he would write an article about how it's offensive or something. Like, I mean,
he did. He was like, my family was killed in the Holocaust. And then all these people were like, he's Jewish. He's not Jewish.
Yeah.
He's an atheist.
Here's why it's anti-Semitic that he said that.
He says,
he
writes, the Biden administration was huge on tangible accomplishments and improvements in inflation numbers, and relatively less interested in touting these things in ways that broke through. Like, all they did was tout this shit. It just doesn't break through because people feel that groceries are still too fucking expensive. He goes, which you can blame on the media, but when you're blaming the media, you're losing. My Beth-faced understanding of this is that it comes from a sense that voters should be treated with respect as reasoning creatures who will appreciate actual achievements and will reward you for what the documented progress actually is. The Brat Pack is moving away from this nose to the grindstone approach. Sometimes you've got to rise from the grindstone and sing for all to hear. That is such a funny.
It's crazy.
Okay, sometimes you have to. The Brat Pack is moving away from this nose to the grindstone approach. Sometimes you've got to rise from the grindstone and sing for all to hear. Yeah, and then the overseer will whip you for singing when you should be having your nose to the grindstone. What is this singing? What are you singing?
That's my favorite part in the musical adaptation of Chaucer's. What's the thing Chaucer wrote?
Canterbury Tales?
Yeah. When the miller is rises from the grindstone and just starts singing. It's one of the most electrifying parts in the entire story.
Also, he says here, just a little earlier, he said, my best faith understanding of this is that it comes from a sense that voters should be treated with respect. Here's why that's wrong. Voters are stupid, which is like, I kind of appreciate, because, this has long been, the editorial view of this one podcaster is that you obviously shouldn't treat anyone with respect, let alone voters. Oh, no, thank you.
He's trying to arrive at Adam Curtis's conclusions, but he's doing it wrong and like getting to the wrong place. So he's like, here's what I think. The reason that everyone is easily manipulated by advertisements and the masses are like easily manipulated is just because like we haven't found the right story yet. We need the Brat Pack approach to really.
And then something strange happened that none of them could have predicted.
But in reality, nothing ever really changed.
Moving on from storytelling, attention. Attention is very important, and I like how he's just describing I think he's leaning too hard into the brat metaphor because he is just describing a really annoying child who wants to tell you about the TV shows they're watching that you have no idea what they're talking about, and then they demand your attention to do so. So he writes here, attention. The Brat Pack stresses attention. Its approach reflects an overriding interest in commanding it. Too many of us in the media and politics and in book publishing and many of the other worlds I know best are still living in the past.
How is he so bad at writing?
Yeah, this is the worst writing. Listen to this tortured sentence. Anand, put your nose back to the grindstone. Stop singing and learn how to write. Too many of us in the media and in politics and in book publishing and many other of the worlds I know best are still living in the past.
Oh my God. That sentence was like, what he did to that sentence is what like a chiropractor does to your body. That was horrific.
You're in the hospital now. You can't move your legs or arms anymore.
Many of the worlds he knows include politics, book publishing, and the media. But he goes, stuck in a world in which Walter Cronkite told millions of people what they needed to know and how to think. We have not adjusted to a new media world whose fundamental quality is fragmentation and whose most precious resource, therefore, is human attention.
This is like if Hideo Kojima got into a different car accident every day for a month and then tried to write Metal Gear Solid 2 again.
Yeah.
He goes. He compares it to FDR's fireside chats, but he says there was a sneering at the attention seizers when someone like Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez rose on the strength of her attentional intelligence.
Shut the fuck up.
She did not rise.
Shut the fuck up.
She did not rise.
God.
She did not win election because of her attentional intelligence. And I mean, actually, so some might say she won that election because of the policy positions she stuck out,
because of a lack of attention. Partly, it was a very low turnout election.
Yeah.
I guess that's attentional intelligence too. Anyone who has ever gotten any type of result from turnout, that's attentional intelligence. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, no, I mean the attentional intelligence was lacking from Pelosi and what's his name, Joe, the guy she unseated, who like they didn't try at all in that election, and they got it snatched from them. But listen to this drivel. It says, some dismissed her and others struggled to emulate her, showing the distance between the mainstream and her. Under Harris, the Brat Pack is showing a complete break from the old approach. The new style centers their pursuit of attention, embraces memes, is willing to try weird things, and above all, understands that you win when people cannot look away. We are finally not having Trump's conversation.
I have already read this book. It's called Meme Magic, and Baked Alaska wrote it in 2016. It's the exact same fucking thesis as Baked Alaska. It's the same thing, but just with, like, he's actually a worse writer than Baked Alaska.
And no, the way that he's writing this, it's so clear that it's like his goal kind of is to be able to either be like, I was right. I was so right about this. It's so good. That's why the Democrats won. Or be like, I predicted this. I predicted this horrible strategy that they use. Like, it's so he has so much contempt for this strategy that he's describing.
And by the way,
it infuses every single line of being like, yeah, no, I can't believe the Democrats are trying to get people's attention now. Like, and also like, you can't.
This is a total break from the old approach of just, please ignore me. I'm trying to be as inconspicuous as possible running for president.
Yeah, and this idea that you can't do both. You can't tell a story or be like demand attention or play to people's emotions and also have policies or change anything or do anything. It's a choice. It's a binary choice, and you have to pick one. And he's like, yeah, what they're actually doing is they're taking this road. They're taking the Brat road. So they're not doing any policies. It's actually quite an astute strategy. We'll see how it works out for them.
In the preface to this, he said, like, well, I missed my flight to Chicago, leather jacket in tow. And I just, like, all I can think about is him wearing a leather jacket while writing the phrase attentional intelligence.
How hot was it in Chicago, Will and Felix, when you were there?
I mean, like, too hot for a leather jacket. It wasn't stifling, though. But, beauty knows no pain.
If you really wanted to wear a leather jacket and look like the Warren supporting version of Roger from Doug, like, you could force it.
I'm gonna go quickly on these last couple ones because it's just
we're
drivel.
Just stopping you. We're
next up is
you.
Emotion. One of the most interesting debates I've had in recent years with people who think deeply about fighting authoritarianism. Again, that sentence is so bad.
He's so bad at writing. Hey, he probably makes $1 million a year doing this shit.
Okay. One of the most interesting debates I've had in recent years with people who think deeply about fighting authoritarianism.
Did no one edit it?
Authoritarianism, my least favorite ideology. We got to get rid of it. Get rid of authoritarianism.
Is about whether pro-democracy movements can and should seek to compete with autocrats' skill at catering to the emotions. My former New York Times colleagues Roger Cohen and I had a spirited back and forth, blah, 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 blah. It goes, I believe it is totally possible to make people feel big feels for the democratic cause. And I don't think that's dangerous, but the Vibes faction wasn't in charge all these years. The new style recognizes emotional labor, if you will, as vital to political work. That is why Harris and Governor Tim Walz are constantly talking about joy. That is why the campaign has embraced the notion of the centrality of vibes, not just policy. The Brat Pack doesn't have any disdain for emotion.
It's literally, Felix, do you remember that video game We Happy Few, where everyone's on a drug called joy?
Yeah, yeah.
It reminds me of that. Also, like, what is Roger Cohen arguing with him there? What was he arguing? He was like, no, Democrats shouldn't play to people's emotions. It's so dangerous to get people to like your side. You can't get them to like democracy because then they might become rabid maniacs.
Roger Cohen was like the honky in like a rock video from 1985 where like Rat or Motley Crue crashes.
Turn down that emotion.
Yeah,
he's the guy that Money for Nothing was about.
Rat or Motley Crue like crashes fancy dinner. He's that type of like Dee Snider kicks him down a flight of stairs because he's like these memes are too funny. We can't have them. This emotional labor is healing our trauma too much. Yeah,
this is the MTV.
Okay, next is culture. The Brat Pack. The Brat Pack wants to play in the culture. The Brat Pack wants to play in the culture. Mom, can I play in the culture? No, it's too late. It's weird. Dinner's in 5 minutes.
I'm picturing the door from Silent Hill 3 that's locking the apartment. It's like the culture. You're not allowed to play in the culture past 11.
I think this is the first essay we've ever read where it can like cause someone who's learned English to unlearn it.
Yes, no.
Like it can scrape language away from your brain.
Republicans showing this to people taking their citizenship tests as like setting up fake abortion clinics, but for learning with the citizenship test.
Yeah.
Listen to this. A constant lament of organizers and activists and electoral campaigners on the broad left in recent years has been the lack of savvy engagement in the culture. Has it? Has it really? Has that been a constant lament of organizers and activists and electoral campaigners? Did someone tell Ananda about commas? You don't need to put an and after every single thing you're like bringing up.
The broad left, that's Kamala, that's Hillary, that's AOC. Those are the broads on the left. You know what I mean?
This next
what was Pokemon Go to the polls? Is that not engaging in culture?
I mean, okay, this next sentence is possibly the best sentence I've read on the show this year. So he says, the constant lament about the lack of savvy engagement in the culture. The right has its MAGA hats. Where were the left's hats?
Where were the left's hats?
The answer is at chapotraphouse.store.
Yeah, I need one of those Zapata oil hats, by the way.
And listen to this.
No, did he forget the pussy hats? He totally forgot about that, apparently.
Listen to this. The right has racist songs about small towns. What anthems has risen to the fore and held the nation in thrall to represent values of pluralism, multiracial democracy, and freedom? Isn't the whole point of this fucking piece that the Democrats are copying Charlie XCX's album? And this idea that the right has their racist songs about small towns. What anthems have risen to the fore and held the nation in thrall to represent the values of pluralism, multiracial democracy, and freedom? He wants a rich men north of Richmond, but about Elizabeth Warren. And the reason that guy has been disappeared and will never be heard from again is A, that his song sucked, and B, it was a transparent attempt to astroturf some kind of savvy cultural engagement on the right. The reason liberals and Democrats don't have to worry about savvy engagement with the culture is that our culture is hegemonically liberal. And thus we don't need fucking anthems about multiracial democracy and the virtues of democratic civic life.
Yeah, and when we get them, when people try to make them, they fucking suck. Like the Rina Sawayama song with Elton John, which is like the worst song I've ever heard in my fucking life.
This is like a mirror image of like the Trump people who, like, when Trump won, they weren't happy because they didn't achieve cultural dominance. Only it's on the other side where he, despite liberal cultural hegemony, he wants this to be seen as like an underdog force in American culture when it's really not. And
Yeah.
by the way, there is a liberal, pluralistic Richmond, north of Richmond, like an anthem that really portrays America's best values, its best liberal values. And it's the King Von song where he's robbing the guy's house and he thinks he sees a really sexy girl, but it's his sister. And that's the liberal Richmond, north of Richmond.
I'm picturing that's like a 9-minute anthem, like the Immortal Technique song. Where he rapes his mom.
It's very different. He doesn't do the thing from Dance with the Devil. He's just like, who's this sexy bitch? Hey, that's my sister. and he's like, what are you doing here, pal? It's like a musical. It's really fun.
You can almost see where in the listen through that he did to the album Brat, he came up with these ideas. Like, this is definitely, he got to Von Dutch and he's like, yeah, there's no songs anymore. Like, the funniest thing is the idea of that this guy had to listen to that album and be like, and try to come up with like an astute political piece about it. And that's why he came up with all this dumb shit and tried writing it down. And that's why it's so incoherent.
You know, he was sitting in the United Business Lounge and like no one was talking to him and he was staring off in the distance. And he turned to the person next to him and was like, they're going to call this the Brat election.
Yeah, no, literally.
And then he was like, oh God, I have to write an article. Now I'm like pot committed to writing this shitty article.
This is like the journalist version of Max Landis's big, like 300-page thing about Carly Rae Jepsen. Like, call me maybe.
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna skip to the end here because, like, you know, I've already given myself brain damage reading this drivel. But it says here, beyond the specific elements, a final word about what they add up to. The Brat Pack is pushing the Democratic Party in a more dice-rolling direction. Take the risk, try the weird thing, shock people a little, channel your inner Bonnie Raitt, and let's give them something to talk about. What the fuck have they done, other than Joe Biden nearly dying during the debate? What was anything the Democratic Party did that's been shocking or weird? Or anything like apart from, like, I guess, I don't know, choosing Tim Walz over Josh Shapiro, I guess that surprised me. So, I mean,
in some sense of the word, it's shocking that Kamala Harris has committed to eternally arming Israel no matter what. Just in the morally shocking sense, but not actually surprising for a Democrat. But I get like Tim Walz has told the couch joke a bunch of times. So
It was crazy when they brought up the empty chair from Clint Eastwood's like speech at the RNC, and they just shot a blank right at the head area of where Obama would be sitting in the chair. That was really crazy.
Has enough time passed now that we can all agree that the Clint Eastwood empty chair speech was pure fire, and he was speaking.
He could do no wrong.
He was speaking only facts at the RNC.
Bungle, like I don't know if you guys saw this rare bungle that I found over the week. It's a picture of Obama. He's on Air Force One, and one of his advisors is sitting on the chair, and Obama just like sits on her lap. It's like
he sees all chairs as empty. He just sits on them.
Yeah,
he had a soda past the 8 p.m. That's when he sat on her lap.
Yeah, Bungler saw every chair as his, and Clint was the only guy brave enough to call him out, and he's never done it since. Have you noticed that?
No,
There's
it's true.
He hasn't fucked with anyone's chair since Clint did that. So you're welcome.
Wait, Will,
I'm so sorry, but I have to point out something that you passed in this.
Please.
One of the paragraphs here, they have titles like culture, attention. One of them is called Mobiusuation. Okay. Perhaps the most politically significant element of the Brat Pack's way is the rise of what one of its leading gurus, Anat Shenker Osorio, calls Mobiusuation. The theory that Democrats should not seek to persuade by diluting their offerings to reach out to the middle, the moderates, the centrists, whatever. Rather, that they should seek to animate the base to persuade the middle. That's a really, I was really waiting for him to bring up Anat Shenkur Osorio, who's one of my gurus, one of the gurus of the Brat Pack. Honestly, mentioned in the same breath as Charlie XCX always,
Yeah. And then that completely nonsense made up word. So to Big Finish on, he says, it is the rise, perhaps, of a more fearless Democratic Party. Fearless about how it communicates and crafts statements. Fearless about not pandering to the white moderate. Not pandering to the white moderate. Okay, all right.
To their white surprise.
Fearless in picking a vice presidential nominee based on chemistry rather than electoral calculus. Fearless about hitting back and even being deservedly vicious. Fearless about making jokes about Walz's inability to eat spices and trusting that people will appreciate the playful ribbing rather than believe with Ben Shapiro that whiteness is under attack. Fearless in shaking things up on the assumption that the old ways can't beat fascism. Yes, we have a new candidate in Harris, but don't sleep on the deeper shift. A new political style is on the rise. The Brat Pack has a plan to defeat Trump. Will it work?
Question mark? Wow.
Yes, question mark. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful.
Well, if it doesn't work, we'll know who to blame it on.
Yeah. He doesn't even take a he writes this whole shitty essay, but he doesn't even have the courage to say it's good or bad.
No, of course, because he wants to be able to look back and be like, I was right about all this, by the way.
Exactly.
I saw that they didn't have any policies. That's all he's saying, is that I saw that they didn't have any policies. And he just spent a million words saying that, a million of the stupidest. He writes like he's being paid per word, like a pulp novelist from the 40s.
Like L. Ron Hubbard, yeah. Well, Felix, the last time we recorded an episode and I was up in the Berkshires, it was the Mr. Burcham episode. And you'll remember on that episode, after watching all 5 episodes of that show, or just 4 episodes of that show, I was so drained that I needed to go for a drive to look at cows in a field, a la Michael Clayton, hoping my car would explode with me in it.
You needed to play the song Night Call and just drive through the Berkshires.
I think for now, I'm going to go look at one of the old cemeteries and see if I can find someone from the Revolutionary War that I can give a thumbs up to and take a little selfie. So
yeah, goth smoking weed.
we'll see if that can purge this end. Jesus Christ.
Right before I leave, I just want to say, or right before we close out, I think this election I'm going to vote for the first time ever, and my plan is to write in for Joe Biden because I think it would be so funny.
Yes, as you should.
Because I kind of think Trump is going to win, and I think it would be so funny to be like, so many people wrote in Joe Biden, and that's why the Democrats lost. And so I'm doing misinformation a little bit of being like,
Hesse, yeah. I've been for a couple months now trying to promote the Write in Joe Biden campaign because
it would be so funny.
Look, if you can stand for these brats stealing the nomination and the democratic process in the process with their attention-seeking storytelling, then have at it. But I'm still riding with Joe, and I'm writing him in come November.
It would be so funny if it was like Putney Swope and Joe actually wins. Everyone in the country writes him in.
That's what people want. They want Joe. They want Joe back. Now that he's gone away, we realize what we had in him, and we feel guilty, and we want him back.
Period.
All right. Till next time, everybody. We're going to sign off for today. But once again, thanks to Hesse Deni for sitting in today. It was always a joy with you.
R.I.P. Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah. It's a shame what happened to him.
I know.
But we will continue to stand for free speech on this show, regardless of any intimidation or aggression or brat-style storytelling. So that does it for us. Chris, do we have anything to plug at the end of this episode? I've already plugged chapotraphouse.store, where all the left-wing hats are available for Anand and anyone else who's
and all the movie
seeking to display their attentional intelligence. Buy the Zapata oil and movie mindset hats available in chapotraphouse.store.
Keep watching this space for Matt's book's pre-sale. The manuscript is at the printers as of a few days ago, so we will have more information about that very, very soon. And don't worry, I will make it very, very, very clear how to buy that book.
All right. Sayonara, everybody. Till next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.